Hello and welcome to the Week 11 edition of the Pickwatch podcast. I am Casey Joyner, the football scientist. You may remember me from my 14-year stint with ESPN where I covered the NFL and fantasy football. I'm now on the independent path via my website, thefootballscientist.com, and I'm doing a weekly pick'em article for Pickwatch. My Week 10 picks went 11-3, bringing my 2020 season mark to 101-45, or a 69.2% win rate that is tied for ninth highest among the more than 100 analysts tracked by Pickwatch.com. Here are my Week 11 picks. Each section details which team is predicted to win and provides a quick summary of why that selection was made. The picks also contain a confidence value for each selection based on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. Now on to the picks. Let's start with an exciting NFC West matchup on Thursday night, Arizona at Seattle. Seattle used to make a habit of posting 400 or more offensive yards in a game, but the Seahawks have reached that mark on only 2 of the past 5 weeks. It's part of why Seattle isn't faring as well in shootout games, as they have lost 2 of the past 3 contests that fall into that category. It's not a good place to be when facing an Arizona offense that has racked up 430 more offensive yards and 30 more points in 5 straight games. The Seahawks have also become turnover prone as they have posted 3 or more giveaways in 3 of the past 4 games, a pace that won't work well against a Cardinals defense that has 9 takeaways in the past 4 games. Add that to Arizona having won 2 of its last 3 shootout contests, and the Cardinals are to pick in this one with a confidence level of 3. Next up is Cincinnati at Washington. It's very rare when a team's third-string quarterback might actually turn out to be the squad's best quarterback, but that may be the case with Washington and Alex Smith. The football team had to turn to Smith last week following Kyle Allen's season-ending ankle surgery, and it led to Washington posting season highs in offensive yards and first downs. Cincinnati's offense has fallen into a bit of a slump of late, as the Bengals have now posted fewer than 250 net passing yards in 3 of the past 5 games, a trend that won't work well against a Washington defense that has allowed more than 250 net passing yards only 3 times this season. Combine those trends with Cincinnati allowing 20 or more points in every game since Week 1, and it's enough to land this selection in Washington's column with a confidence level of 3. Now we travel to the NFC South for Atlanta at New Orleans. The Saints have posted 6 straight wins and are rightfully seen as one of the powerhouse teams in the NFC, but they would do well not to underestimate a Falcons team that has won 3 of its past 4. Atlanta has one of the most consistent offenses in the NFL, having posted 320 or more offensive yards in every game this season. New Orleans has done the best job in the league of getting quality production out of every facet of its roster, a trait that would become more essential since Jameis Winston will be the likely starter in place of the injured Drew Brees. Winston's penchant for interceptions will hinder the Saints' offense, but the New Orleans defense has racked up 7 takeaways over the past 2 weeks and should be able to offset that, so New Orleans gets the pick in this one with a confidence level of 4. Now we'll look at what is the potential mismatch of Week 11, Pittsburgh at Jacksonville. The Steelers are the only undefeated team in the league and rated atop of nearly every power rankings category. Were it not for the presence of the abysmal New York Jets, the 1-8 Jaguars would easily rank as the worst team in the league. Those trends make this one of the easiest picks to make in Week 11, so why don't the Steelers have a confidence level of 10? It is due to their habit of Tomlining, which is a term I use to describe when a team plays down to its opponent's talent level. Mike Tomlin's Steelers teams have done this quite often over the years, and just did this a couple of weeks ago against Dallas. So don't be surprised if Jacksonville makes this game a lot closer than the respective talent levels indicate it should be, but Pittsburgh does still get this pick with a confidence level of 9. This is possibly the most interesting matchup of Week 11, Green Bay at Indianapolis. The Packers have won 3 of their last 5, yet the reality is in that span they were blown out by Tampa Bay, got run over by the Minnesota rushing attack, dominated an injury-obliterated 49ers club, and let a 1-win Jaguars team nearly pull off the upset last week. The Colts have been equally inconsistent in winning 3 of their last 5, but the key to success for Indianapolis has been avoiding giveaways. The Colts have won every game this year when they have posted 1 or 0 giveaways, and are 1-3 when posting 2 giveaways. Since the Packers' defense has generated 2 takeaways in only 1 game this year, this means that the Colts are likely to win that statistical battle as well as this game, so they get the pick with a confidence level of 3. Next up is a game that isn't quite what we thought it would be heading into this season, New England at Houston. Just when the world was ready to quote Gorilla Monsoon and stick a proverbial fork into the Patriots and declare them done, New England pulls off one of the biggest upsets of the season with a 23-17 win over Baltimore in Week 10. The Patriots held the best rushing offense in the league to only 115 rushing yards, and in doing so allowed their second lowest point total this year. That is the right kind of trend to have in facing a Houston offense that had its worst offensive showing of the year against Cleveland last week, although it should be noted that bad weather played a big part in that. Even with that caveat, Bill Belichick's squad should be able to run the ball very well against a Houston defense that has allowed 160 more rushing yards in 6 games this year. So the Patriots are the pick in this one with a confidence level of 4. Now let's look at a matchup of some very inconsistent teams, Philadelphia at Cleveland. Cleveland was arguably the best run-blocking team in the first month of the season and returned to that form last week by racking up 231 yards on the ground against the atrocious Houston rush defense. The Eagles used to be one of the toughest teams to run the ball against, but that hasn't been the case this year as Philadelphia has allowed 130 more rushing yards in 5 straight games. Combine that with Carson Wentz either throwing too many picks or not completing a single deep pass, as happened last week against the Giants, and it gives the Browns many more paths to victory in this one, so they get this with a confidence level of 4. Next up is a battle of 2 underachieving teams, Detroit at Carolina. Detroit has won 4 of its last 7 games in part to the good fortune of Todd Gurley's goal line gaffe in Week 7 and Chase Young's foolish hit on Matthew Stafford that led to a game-winning field goal against Washington last week. Carolina has not been anywhere near as fortunate, as prior to last week's blowout loss to Tampa Bay, the Panthers had lost 4 straight games by 1 possession. Offensive consistency looks to be the key factor in this one, as Detroit has scored 20 or more points in every game this year, while Carolina has scored fewer than 20 points twice in the past 5 games, in large part due to not having Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. Since CMC is slated to miss this contest, Detroit gets the consistency edge and the selection of this one with a confidence level of 3. This should be an entertaining slugfest, Tennessee at Baltimore. The Titans started off the year as one of the best offenses in the league, but that isn't the case of late. Tennessee has posted fewer than 300 net offensive yards in 3 of the past 4 games, and has tallied fewer than 230 net passing yards in 5 of the previous 6 contests. Even the Titans' vaunted rushing attack has faltered, as Tennessee averaged only 87 rushing yards per game in recent matchups against Pittsburgh and Chicago. Baltimore's offense has been equally disappointing, as the Ravens just posted their lowest point total of the year against New England and have only thrown for 200 or more net passing yards in 3 contests. This is about as close to a matchup as one can get, so Baltimore will end up as the pick due to having home field advantage, but only with a confidence level of 1. Next up is the ugliest game of Week 11, the New York Jets at the LA Chargers. It doesn't seem right that these 2 teams should only be separated by 2 games in the win column this season, as the Jets are easily the worst team in the league, and the Chargers are only a couple of misfortunate plays away from turning at least 2 of their extremely close losses into wins. Rookie of the Year candidate Justin Herbert has led the Bolts to 5 games with 400 or more offensive yards, and should make that 6 versus a Jets defense that has allowed 400 or more offensive yards in 3 straight contests and just lost 2 of their top cornerbacks. Combine that with a cross-country trip for New York, and it easily places this pick into the Chargers column with a confidence level of 7. Next up is Miami at Denver. Miami is skyrocketing toward the top of the AFC standings, as the Dolphins have won 6 of the last 7 games and are arguably a top 5 team in the league. Defense is the key to Miami's success, as the Dolphins have racked up at least 1 takeaway in every contest and have allowed fewer than 200 net passing yards in 3 of the past 5 games. The Dolphins are also experts at lighting up their end of the scoreboard, as the Fins have scored 91 points over the past 3 weeks. Denver's offense has improved of late, but the Broncos scored only 12 points last week and have posted 18 or fewer points in 3 of the past 5 games. Combine that with Drew Lock being highly questionable to play in this game, and it pushes this pick strongly in Miami's direction with a confidence level of 7. This used to be a matchup of NFC powerhouses, but not so much this year, Dallas at Minnesota. Minnesota has scratched and clawed its way back into long shot NFC wildcard contender status with 3 straight wins, largely because they got back to playing the type of football Mike Zimmer wants them to play. The Vikings racked up 557 rushing yards and 6 takeaways in those 3 victories, and their defense had its best game of the year in the Monday Night Battle against Chicago by holding the Bears to only 149 total offensive yards and 13 points. The Cowboys' offense fell apart after Dak Prescott's season-ending injury, and that has led Dallas to average just over 10 points per game in their last 4 contests. Combine that with the Cowboys having allowed 200 or more rushing yards in 3 of their last 6 games, and this being in Minnesota, and it easily lands this game in the Vikings column with a confidence level of 6. Next up is what might be the game of the week, a great AFC West matchup of Kansas City at Las Vegas. The Raiders' Week 5 win against the Chiefs could have been a turnaround point for this franchise, as it ended a 5-game losing streak to Kansas City and has propelled Las Vegas to victories in 4 of its past 5 contests. A power ground attack has been the key for the Raiders, as John Gruden's offense has tallied 160 more rushing yards in 3 straight games. The Chiefs' rush defense has improved a lot of late, but Kansas City has still given up 150 or more rushing yards in 5 games this year and has yet to show that they can consistently hold their own against top-flight run blocking. The Chiefs can turn any game into a shootout and thus have passed to victory in this one, but the Raiders' rush game edge gives them larger passes of their own, and that gives this pick to Las Vegas with a confidence level of 3. Let's close Week 11 out with a highly entertaining Monday night matchup of the LA Rams at Tampa Bay. Sean McVay's offense has been the Rams' calling card for years, but the reality is defense has been the key to this team's success this year. LA just held the powerhouse Seattle offense to only 333 total yards and 16 points, and they have allowed fewer than 20 points to 6 opponents this season. This isn't to take away anything from the Rams' offense, as that platoon has tallied 350 more offensive yards in all but one game this season. Tampa Bay has been the ultimate boomer-bust team this year, and turnovers have been the key, as the Bucs are 1-2 when posting 2 or more giveaways this year. That's a bad trend versus a Rams defense that has generated at least 2 takeaways in 3 straight games and in 5 total games this year. So the prediction is this will be a bust game for the Bucs and a close road victory for the Rams, so they get this pick with a confidence level of 2.